And now, here's your World Cup correspondent, Patrick Lloyd.
Welcome to your Seize the Day World Cup report. I'm Patrick Lloyd. Each day during the World Cup, we bring you a recap of the previous day's games and a preview and predictions for the upcoming games today. Don't forget, you can catch all of the World Cup action on XM 236 and Sirius 214. So let's start off with yesterday's semifinal game. It was the Netherlands versus Uruguay. Now, the Dutch took a lead in the first half of that game from a 42-yard blast from Giovanni van Bronckhorst. Now, Giovanni van Bronckhorst, he's about 35 years old, in that range. He's the captain of the Dutch. He's played many games for them, but the thing is, he's an outside defender, and he's the last person that you would expect to just power home a shot from that far out. It was just amazing.
We were watching the game yesterday, and of course, if you don't know, Patrick is my son, and we were watching the game yesterday, and I can remember when Van Bronckhorst hit that shot. Again, he was, 35, 38 yards out?
42.
42 yards out. Now, think about that for just a minute. 42 yards out. He had an opening between the goalkeeper's glove and the top corner of the goal of about an inch and a half in which to hit this ball, and he just hit a rocket, just a thunderbolt of a shot, and all of our jaws just dropped, and we all just were kind of like, I can't believe that. I can't believe that. Now, they don't actually give an official award for goal of the tournament, do they? But this could, if they did, this would probably get it.
Yeah, it definitely wins my award, definitely.
For goal of the tournament, Van Bronckhorst yesterday. So the Dutch go up to an early 1-0 lead, and it looked pretty much like this one was going to be a done deal, didn't it?
Right, it did. After that goal, it pretty much looked like things were going to be sealed. It looked like the Dutch were going to try to play defense and keep away for the rest of the game, but that was not the case. Uruguay tied it later from a Diego Forlan blast from outside the box. It looked like it could have been maybe a mistake by the goalkeeper, Martin Stecklenburg. He kind of got a hand to it, but, we're thinking that he could have maybe grabbed onto it. But in my opinion, it was more just a horrible defense. They let Forlan have a lot of space over in the middle where he's the most dangerous. So I've heard a lot of analysts say that it was more the goalkeeper's fault, but in my opinion, it was definitely more of the defense's fault.
And you got to give a lot of credit to Diego Forlan. He hit a real good shot with his left foot, and he's been, up until, well, of course, Uruguay's run ended yesterday, he's been pretty dominant force throughout the tournament.
Yes, he is. He's not really a very high-profile talent around the world. He plays for Atletico Madrid in Spain, which is not really a high-profile club, but he has been hammering home goals for that team, and he's been doing it for Uruguay in this World Cup, so he's really surprised a lot of people, and he's having a great World Cup.
So we went into halftime with a 1-1 draw, and everybody was kind of thinking, this is really up in the air, but in the second half, things kind of turned around.
Right, Wesley Sneijder scored for the Dutch, making it 2-1. There were a lot of questions on whether that goal was offsides, but the replay, it was really tight. It was really close, but they gave the goal to Sneijder, so it stood at 2-1. And then Arjen Robben added another off of a header later to make it 3-1. It was late in the game. And then a little bit later in the game, Uruguay, they actually surprisingly scored. And it was, all of a sudden, it was 3-2. And Uruguay kept on fighting to get the equalizer late in the game. There were 2-3 minutes left. And then things just started going crazy for Uruguay. They kept on shooting, but they just couldn't get that last goal. So it's a 3-2 victory for the Dutch, and they'll be in the final.
Now, from the very beginning, you and I had been calling the Netherlands to actually win the tournament. So now here they are in the final. First time in a World Cup final since, 1978, I think. And the Dutch, as you talked about yesterday, have had kind of a history of collapsing late in the tournament. Now they're in the final. They're going to get a shot at a great team in the final coming up on Sunday. Just give me your thoughts about the Dutch. Can they pull this out? Can they go all the way?
I think they can. In my opinion, they haven't played the best football that they ever have. In qualifying, they went undefeated and they didn't tie any games. They won every single game. And in the few games leading up to the World Cup, the pre-World Cup friendlies, they were piling home goals. That's when they were playing at their best. I still don't think they have done that, but they definitely have been able to do what it takes to get the job done, and really that's all it takes at this level. So we'll see how they can do against either Germany or Spain on Sunday.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. It's our World Cup report, and our World Cup correspondent Patrick Lloyd is with us this morning on Seize the Day on the Catholic Channel, XM 117 and Sirius 159. We know that the Dutch are going to be in the final. Holland, a.k.a. the Netherlands, they're going to be playing one of two powerhouse teams. Tell us about today's game.
Yes, Germany versus Spain. These two teams, you would expect this game to be a final match. It's kind of weird that it's a semifinal instead. These are two amazingly evenly matched teams. It's just amazing how close that these teams are, in my opinion anyway. It doesn't get much closer. This is a rematch of the European Championship final in 2008, in which Spain won that game 1-0 off of a goal from Fernando Torres. So for the Germans, I definitely think it's a revenge match for them. They really like to attack early and often, but their defense is also top class. The Germans, what I've noticed about them, and Dad, when we've watched the games, you've pointed it out, they really don't have many weaknesses. And that's somewhat of a strength for them, And so Spain, they're very similar. They don't like to attack early and often like the Germans do. They like to keep their patience throughout the game. They like to control the game by keeping possession and kind of, toying with their other team just by passing around and keeping possession, and eventually they'll hope that the goals will flow from there. So two different styles of play coming together tomorrow. They're both excellent teams. Germany, they don't have Thomas Müller due to a suspension. He got 2 yellow cards in the last 2 games, so that's a huge loss for them. And Spain, on the other hand, they're debating whether or not to play forward Fernando Torres, whether to start him or put on somebody else. I think I would consider putting on either Cesc Fabregas or the young Llorente. Both of them have shown that they can do better than Torres in this World Cup, so we'll see how that move turns out.
Well, tell me then what you foresee for this game today, because I kind of have a vision of the game myself. Let's see if they match up. What do you think the game is going to look like today, Spain versus Germany?
I think Germany will rely on counterattacks early on. I think that Spain is going to definitely do what they like to do, control the game by keeping possession and passing, and then eventually hoping for shots from there. And if the Germans can, keep their tight defense, which they have been able to do throughout this whole World Cup, they're going to hope to get a quick clearance, go on a quick counterattack, and catch the Spaniards off guard on defense. And they're going to hope for goals from there. And Spain will play their typical style of play. What were you thinking?
Okay, I'm thinking that this is going to be another one of those games, and here's why. That it's going to be a game that a casual soccer fan would say, wow, this game is very boring. And here's why. Because both teams are so good at possession, at just keeping the ball and keeping the ball away from their opponents. I think most of the game is going to be played in the midfield between like the 30-yard lines. And I don't think it's going to be a real high-scoring game, although, Germany's won their last 2 games by a combined total of 8-1.
Right.
So you'd think that they'd be able to rack up some points. And, of course, we know with Spain's firepower, at any moment they could erupt and put 5 or 6 on somebody else. I see a rather, I hate to say boring game, but I see a low-scoring kind of game. I'm going to call this a 1-1 draw, and then who knows what could happen in penalty kicks.
That's actually my prediction, too, a 1-1 draw. It goes to penalty kicks, and I think, this game is so close to call. Like, I've thought about this for a long time, about who's going to win, and it's just so close. It's amazing. I think